Everyone cheered as she smiled at her husband on the altar, but no one knew he had been dead for 5 years. Lillian was a simple young woman who lived in a quiet village. She had a kind heart but no family. She grew up in an orphanage and worked hard to become a teacher. Her dream was to have a loving home and a man who truly cared for her. But in her 28 years of life, she had never been in love. One day, she met a man named Edward. He was charming, gentle, and always smiled. He helped her when her car broke down on a lonely road. From that moment, they became close. Edward would visit her often, bring her flowers, and make her laugh. He always wore a black wristwatch and a white shirt. Lillian felt safe with him. After 6 months, Edward asked her to marry him. She was shocked but happy. He was everything she ever wanted. She had no parents to ask for advice, so she followed her heart. The wedding was simple. It was held in a small hall in the town. Edward stood there, looking perfect in a black suit. His smile made her heart beat fast. People came. The music played. They exchanged vows. Everyone clapped when the pastor said, "You may now kiss the bride." But strange things started happening right after that moment. First, Edward's family didn't show up. He said they lived far away. Then, he didn't let anyone take too many pictures of him. Some photos from the wedding had only Lillian in them. Edward didn't appear in the pictures at all. Lillian asked him about it. He would just laugh and say, "Cameras don't like me." That night, he disappeared after their first dance. He told her he had to travel for a few days for work. She didn't see him again for weeks. She called his phone. It didn't go through. She went to the address he gave her. It was empty. The neighbors said no one lived there for years. Lillian started to worry. Something didn't feel right. She looked through her photos. In every one, she stood alone in her wedding dress. It was like Edward never existed. Then one day, while cleaning, she found a newspaper hidden under her bed. The headline read, "Tragic car crash. Local man dies on wedding day." Her heart dropped. The photo in the paper was Edward, but the date was 5 years ago. Her hands shook. Her eyes blurred. Was this a joke? Was this a dream? No, she had just married a man who died 5 years ago. Lillian could not sleep that night. Her heart beat so fast, it felt like it would stop. She read the newspaper over and over again. There was no mistake. The name, the face, even the smile in the photo, it was Edward. But the article said he died in a car accident 5 years ago, on the same day he was supposed to get married. Lillian felt cold all over. Her hands shook. She stood up, walked to the mirror, and looked at herself. "Am I going mad?" she asked quietly. She remembered the moments they shared, the way he held her hand, the things he said, the way he looked at her like she was the only one in the world. It all felt real, but now it didn't make sense. The next morning, she went back to the address Edward gave her. She knocked on the door again and again. Still, no one came out. An old woman sitting outside next door watched her. "You looking for someone, my dear?" the old woman asked. "Yes," Lillian said. "Edward. He told me he lived here." The old woman gave her a strange look. "That house has been empty since the accident. A young man died there. Car crash. Very sad. He was gonna get married, you know. His name was Edward." Lillian's legs felt weak. She sat on the ground. "You knew him?" the woman asked. Lillian nodded slowly, tears filling her eyes. "I married him yesterday." The old woman gasped and made the sign of the cross. "Child, that man died 5 years ago." Lillian went home, confused and afraid. She searched online for more about Edward. She found an article with more details. It said Edward's bride had left him days before the wedding. Heartbroken, he drove fast and crashed into a tree. He died instantly. She also found a photo of his grave. Without thinking twice, Lillian went to the cemetery. She walked past many graves until she saw his name on a white stone. Edward Albert, born 1987, died 2020. Forever in our hearts. She stood still, staring at the grave. "How did I marry a ghost?" she whispered. Suddenly, a cold wind blew. The trees shook. A shadow passed behind her. Lillian turned quickly. No one was there. She knelt beside the grave. "Why me?" she asked. "Why did you come back?" That night she didn't sleep. She sat on her bed, holding the photo of her wedding. Still, Edward was not in it. Then the door creaked open on its own. Her heart jumped. She stood up slowly and walked to the door. In the mirror by the door, she saw a man standing behind her. He was smiling. It was Edward. He spoke, though his lips did not move. "I waited 5 years for someone who truly loved me. Now I've found you." Lillian froze. Her feet would not move. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. In the mirror, Edward stood behind her, smiling softly. She turned around fast, but no one was there. She looked again at the mirror. His image was gone. Her heart beat faster than ever. She sat on the bed and held her chest. "This is not a dream," she whispered. "This is real." The next morning, Lillian tried to convince herself it was just her imagination. She cleaned the house, cooked breakfast, and avoided all mirrors. But the strange things did not stop. The radio turned on by itself. It played Edward's favorite song, the one they danced to at their wedding. Lights flickered at night. Her door unlocked on its own. One morning, she found her favorite breakfast on the table. Fried eggs and yam, just how Edward used to make them. But she lived alone. No one had a key. No one came in or out. Lillian became too scared to tell anyone. Who would believe her? That she married a ghost? But somehow she didn't feel afraid of Edward. She felt calm. She remembered his kind eyes, his soft voice. When she thought of him, she didn't feel cold. She felt warm. Then something strange happened. She started to dream of him every night. In the dream, they sat together under the stars. He would talk to her, laugh, and hold her hand. He told her secrets, memories, things she had never known. It all felt so real, like another life. One night in the dream, she asked, "Edward, are you really dead?" He smiled sadly. "Yes, but love doesn't die. I never got to love someone in life. So I came back to love you." Lillian woke up crying. She didn't know what to do. She knew this love was not normal, but it was also not evil. She felt safe, cared for, even if it was by a man who no longer lived. Days turned into weeks. Edward's presence became part of her life. When she was sad, she would hear his voice. When she was scared, his image would appear in the mirror and calm her. Lillian's friends noticed the change in her. "You seem different," one of them said. "I'm happy," Lillian replied. But deep inside, she knew this happiness was built on a secret too strange to tell. Then one night, something even more shocking happened. She found a note on her pillow. It was written in Edward's handwriting. "Will you still love me, even if I cannot stay?" Her hands trembled. She looked around the room. Then she whispered to the air, "Yes, I will." A soft wind touched her cheek. She felt his presence beside her. It was the beginning of a love story no one would ever believe. Lillian woke up early the next morning. The note Edward left was still on her pillow. She held it tightly and smiled, but there was a sadness in her eyes. She loved him, but she knew something was not right. A ghost could not stay forever. Something had to change. That day, she decided to visit the church near her house. She needed answers. She needed to understand what was happening to her life. The priest listened to her quietly. She didn't tell him everything, only that strange things were happening and that she had dreams of a man who loved her. The priest nodded slowly and said, "Sometimes, lost souls return for unfinished business. But child, love from the dead can never last. You must help him find peace." Lillian walked out of the church with more questions than answers. As she passed through the market on her way home, an old woman with gray hair stopped her. Her eyes were sharp, as if they could see into Lillian's soul. "You carry the spirit of the dead with you," the woman said. Lillian froze. "What did you say?" The woman held her hand. "His name is Edward. He died with a broken heart. Now he has found you." Tears filled Lillian's eyes. "How do you know?" The woman smiled gently. "Because I've seen this before. Many years ago, my sister married a spirit, just like you. It ended in pain." Lillian's voice shook. "But I love him." The old woman nodded. "And he loves you. That's why he came. But he does not belong in this world. And if he stays too long, something bad will happen to both of you." Lillian looked down. She didn't want to let go. Edward was the only one who ever made her feel special. But now she was scared. The woman gave her a small bottle of oil and a white cloth. "If you truly love him," she said, "help him cross over. Light a white candle, wear this cloth and speak his name. Tell him to go in peace." That night, Lillian sat in her room. The house was quiet. The air was heavy. She lit the candle. She wore the cloth. Her hands shook. "Edward," she whispered, "I love you, but you don't belong here." Suddenly, the mirror glowed. Edward appeared, looking sad but calm. "I wanted one more chance to feel love," he said, his voice soft like the wind. "Thank you for giving it to me." Lillian cried, "Please don't go." He smiled. "I will always be with you, but not like this." The candle flickered. His image began to fade. Lillian reached out, but he was already gone. The room became still. The mirror showed only her reflection. She was alone again, but this time she had peace. Lillian woke up the next morning feeling like a part of her heart had been taken away. Her room was quiet. The air felt still. For the first time in many weeks, she didn't feel Edward's presence. The mirror was just a mirror again. The room felt colder, emptier. She walked around the house slowly. Every room reminded her of him. The flowers he once brought were dry now. The photo from their wedding still sat on the table, and just like before, he wasn't in it. It was only her, standing alone in her white dress. Tears rolled down her face as she picked it up. She remembered their first meeting, the laughter, the silent love they shared. She sat on the bed, holding the photo close. "I miss you," she whispered, "even if you were never truly here." The days passed slowly. The house felt too quiet. No more love notes, no more dreams, no more sudden songs or flickering lights. Lillian tried to return to normal life. She went back to teaching. She smiled at her students, but her heart wasn't the same. She walked through town, bought food, smiled at neighbors, but deep inside, she was hurting. One afternoon, she decided to visit Edward's grave again. She brought fresh flowers and knelt beside the stone. "I let you go," she said softly, "but I still feel you in my heart." Just as she placed the flowers, she noticed something strange beside the grave. A small, white envelope with her name on it. Her hands trembled as she picked it up. She opened it slowly. Inside was a short letter, written in Edward's handwriting. "Thank you for loving me. Because of you, I found peace. You are stronger than you know. Love, be happy. Edward." Lillian cried, but it was a soft, peaceful cry. She held the letter to her chest and smiled. Somehow, Edward had reached out one last time to say goodbye. As she stood up to leave, the wind blew gently through the trees. She looked up at the sky. The clouds moved slowly, and the sun peeked out. "Goodbye, Edward," she whispered. "I will never forget you." From that day, she started to heal. The pain was still there, but it became lighter. Her smile became real again. She painted her walls, gave away old things, and opened the windows wide. She let light back into her life. The house was still empty, but it no longer felt haunted, felt peaceful. Lillian knew her love story was strange, something no one would ever believe, but it was hers. It changed her life forever. Weeks turned into months. The seasons changed. The days became brighter. Lillian slowly found peace in her heart. Though she missed Edward deeply, she chose to move forward. She started spending more time with her students. Their laughter brought her joy. She visited the orphanage where she grew up and donated books and clothes. She wanted to give back. She wanted her life to mean something, just as Edward had wished for her in his final letter. One Sunday morning, she woke up with a new feeling, hope. She looked at herself in the mirror and smiled. "It's time to live again," she said softly. She cleaned the house, removed the wedding decorations she had kept for too long, and packed away the photo that showed her standing alone. She no longer needed to see it every day. Edward would always live in her heart, but she had to make room for something new. She took a walk through the town. It was warm outside. The sun touched her skin gently. For the first time in a long while, she felt light, like she had dropped a heavy load she had been carrying for months. At the small bookshop near the corner of her street, she stopped to look through the window. A man inside was arranging books on a shelf. He turned and smiled at her. He had kind eyes. She walked in slowly and picked a book. He came over and said, "That's one of my favorites." Lillian smiled back. "I've never read it, but something about the cover feels peaceful." They spoke for a few minutes. His name was Joshua. He was soft-spoken and respectful. He told her he had just moved into town and was trying to start over after losing his parents. Lillian felt a strange connection. Not love at first sight, but a quiet understanding, like two people who had both been through something deep. They met again the following week, then the next, and again after that. They talked about books, about life, about healing. Lillian didn't tell him about Edward. Not yet. That story was still too sacred, too close to her heart. But every time she spoke with Joshua, she felt something opening inside her. A window to something new. She was not trying to replace Edward. She knew that would never happen. But she was learning that her heart was big enough to hold both memory and hope. One evening, after a long walk together, Joshua looked at her and said, "You have a peaceful spirit, like someone who's been through a storm and found light again." Lillian smiled, tears shining in her eyes. "Maybe I have." And with that, a new chapter of her life began, soft, gentle, and filled with the quiet promise of joy. That night, after spending a peaceful day with Joshua, Lillian returned home and sat quietly on her bed. Her heart was calm. She looked around her small room, now filled with warm colors and sunlight during the day. Life was beginning to feel new again. She turned off the lights and closed her eyes, whispering a soft prayer of thanks. Then came the dream. It started the same way her old dreams did, under a starry sky, by a river that flowed slowly and quietly. Lillian stood barefoot on the grass, feeling the cool wind on her skin. The place felt peaceful, like a resting place between two worlds. And then she saw him, Edward. He was standing across the river, wearing the same white shirt he always wore. His eyes looked kind, just like before, but this time, they were filled with peace, not sadness. Lillian took a step closer, her voice shaking. "Edward," he smiled gently. "You're doing well, Lillian. I came to see you one last time." Tears filled her eyes. "I miss you. I miss you too," he replied. "But I'm happy now. I just wanted to thank you for helping me let go. You gave me something I never had before, love." Lillian knelt down beside the river, crying softly. "I was afraid to forget you." Edward shook his head slowly. "You don't have to forget me, but you don't have to hold on to pain either. Life gave us a strange story, but it was ours, and now it's time to keep living." She looked at him, memorizing his face for the last time. "Will I see you again?" He smiled. "Maybe in another life, but for now, walk forward. Don't look back." The wind blew gently. The stars sparkled brighter. Edward stepped back slowly into the light. "Goodbye, Lillian," he said, and just like that, he was gone. Lillian woke up with tears on her face but a smile on her lips. The dream felt more like a goodbye than a memory. She sat on the edge of the bed and whispered, "Goodbye, Daniel. Thank you." The house felt different that morning. Not empty, but clean, whole. She opened her window and let the morning sun in. Birds chirped. A new day had begun. She knew now that Edward had truly moved on. And now it was her turn. That afternoon, she met Joshua again at the bookshop. He held out a cup of tea and smiled. "You look brighter today." Lillian smiled back. "I feel lighter, like a chapter has closed." He nodded. "Then maybe it's time to write a new one." The days passed gently, and Lillian found herself smiling more often. She spent time with Joshua, went back to teaching full-time, and even joined a women's group in her community. Slowly, she began to feel like herself again. Only stronger, wiser, and more peaceful. One quiet evening, while cleaning the small storage box under her bed, she discovered something unexpected: an old envelope tucked behind a wooden panel. Her heart skipped. It was brown with age, and her name was written on it in Edward's handwriting. She stared at it for a long time before opening it. Inside was a letter. The ink was slightly faded, but every word was clear. "My dearest Lillian, if you are reading this, then I was brave enough to leave you this letter before letting go. I don't know how long I will be with you, or how long my spirit will stay in this world. But I want you to know this. From the moment I saw you on that lonely road, I knew you were special. You brought life back into my soul, even though I was no longer among the living. You gave me something I thought I'd never have again: love, peace, and a second chance to feel alive. I never meant to frighten you. I only wanted to love you, and I hope that when I am gone, you remember me with a smile, not tears. Promise me something, Lillian. Promise you'll live. Promise you'll love again. Don't lock your heart because of me. Open it. Let someone worthy in. Someone who can stand beside you in the world of the living. I will always carry you in the part of me that never dies. With love that never fades, Edward." Lillian pressed the letter to her chest. Her eyes were filled with tears, but they didn't fall. They stayed quietly, like a soft rain waiting in the clouds. She folded the letter gently and placed it inside a new wooden box on her table. That box would hold only good memories. A symbol of love that once was, but also a reminder of how far she had come. That night, she sat under the stars in her backyard. The sky was wide and full of quiet beauty. As she looked up, she whispered, "Thank you, Edward. Promise, I'll live." The next day, she baked cookies and took them to the orphanage. The children hugged her. She laughed freely for the first time in months. It felt good, like the pieces of her broken heart were being put back together. And in the crowd of happy children, Joshua appeared. He smiled and waved. "I thought I'd find you here." She walked over to him, her heart steady and open. Maybe this was what Edward meant. Maybe love could come again, not to replace, but to renew. Lillian began to notice the gentle rhythm of life returning. The morning sun felt warmer. The laughter of children in her classroom sounded sweeter. And every moment spent with Joshua felt more peaceful and real. He didn't rush her. He didn't ask too many questions. He simply stayed close, a steady presence like the calm after a storm. They walked together often. Sometimes they talked about books and music. Other times, they walked in silence, both understanding that healing didn't need words. Lillian didn't need to pretend with Joshua. She could just be herself. A woman who had loved, lost, and was learning to love again. One Saturday, Joshua invited her to the garden behind the bookshop. It was quiet, full of flowers and butterflies. They sat on a bench under a mango tree. "You look peaceful," Joshua said. "I feel peaceful," Lillian replied. "Like my heart is finally quiet." He paused, then looked at her carefully. "Lillian, I know you've been through something big. I won't ask what it is, but I want you to know I'm here. Not to fix you, not to replace anyone, but to walk with you." Lillian's eyes watered. No one had ever said something so simple yet so powerful. She smiled, holding his hand for the first time. "Thank you. That means more than you know." In that moment, she felt something shift in her heart. It wasn't forgetting Edward. It wasn't trying to rewrite the past. It was the quiet beginning of a new chapter, a second chance at love. They began spending more time together. He would walk her home after school. They visited the orphanage together, helping the children paint the walls with bright colors. They laughed, shared meals, and slowly built something special. One evening, as they sat in her living room sipping tea, Joshua looked around and said, "This house feels like home." Lillian looked at him, her heart calm. It hasn't felt like home in a long time, but now it does. He didn't say anything more, but his smile said it all. Later that night, Lillian stood by her window, looking at the moon. She whispered softly, "Edward, I kept my promise. I'm living, and I'm opening my heart again." There was no voice, no shadow, no ghost in the mirror. Just peace. Real quiet peace. She turned off the lights and climbed into bed, holding her small wooden box of memories close. Edward had given her love from beyond. Now she had found love in the present. Her story was not over. It was just beginning. A year passed. Lillian's life had changed in ways she never imagined. Her heart, once haunted by loss and mystery, now beat with joy, purpose, and quiet strength. She had kept the promise she made, not only to Edward, but to herself. She lived, she laughed, and she loved again. Her relationship with Joshua grew stronger. Together, they did simple things: gardening, cooking, reading to children at the orphanage. Lillian no longer feared mirrors or dreams. She no longer felt that cold breeze or saw fading shadows. The past had been laid to rest. Peace had returned to her life. One sunny Saturday afternoon, Joshua took her back to the same garden behind his bookshop. Flowers bloomed everywhere. Birds chirped sweetly. A table stood in the middle with a white cloth, 2 chairs, and a small box. He looked nervous but happy. "Lillian," he began, "I know you've lived through a story that no one else would believe. I don't know every part of it, but I know your heart is strong. And I know I want to spend the rest of my life beside you." He opened the box and revealed a simple gold ring. "Will you marry me?" Lillian's hands covered her mouth. Tears filled her eyes, not from pain, but from joy. She nodded slowly. "Yes, yes, I will." They embraced as the sun shone brighter. It was not a grand proposal. There was no crowd, no camera, no music. Just 2 hearts healing and choosing love again. Weeks later, they had a small wedding. Just a few friends, some children from the orphanage, and the old woman from the market who once warned her. This time, everything felt real, warm, and full of life. And this time, the groom appeared in every photograph. No strange winds, no missing shadows, only smiles. As they danced under the stars that night, Lillian whispered into the sky, "Thank you, Edward. I kept my promise." And though there was no reply, she felt something deep in her heart: peace, approval, and love. The story of the woman who married a ghost became a quiet memory. She never shared it with many people, not because she was ashamed, but because it was sacred. A beautiful, painful, magical chapter that helped her find her true path. She would one day tell the story to her children, not to scare them, but to teach them one simple truth: love is powerful. Love doesn't always follow the rules, but love that brings peace is always real. Sometimes, life brings people into our hearts for a short time to teach us something deep. Even if they leave, what we learn from that love can help us grow, heal, and find joy again. If you've ever felt broken, alone, or unsure how to move forward, remember Lillian's story. Don't stop believing in love. Don't stop living. Your next chapter may be more beautiful than the one before. Like, share, and subscribe for more emotional and inspiring stories. Your story matters too.